Hello, friends and family. I want to welcome you to another great episode of Aging Whealthily podcast. I am your co-host, Sean Smith, and I'm here with my lovely, beautiful co-host, Miss Bridget Smith. Say hello to the people, Bridget.
Hello, everyone.
And today we have some very special guests on this podcast who are going to be talking about a brand new therapy that's a wound care therapy. So we're titling this episode of our podcast, The Future of Advanced Wound Care. Today, along with us in studio, we have, again, she's been with us before, and we're happy to have her again, is Miss Arlene Tessman. And on the phone lines, they weren't able to be in studio today, but we do promise that we will shoot a live podcast with these two guests in the near future. We have Dr. Ruben Rafaelov and Dean Hymel, who are both the co-founders of Infinity Medical Consulting. And what I'll do is I'm going to give them an opportunity to talk to you about Infinity Medical Consulting and also talk about the great services that they provide, the much needed services that they provide. Just to give a little segue into it, this therapy that they offer is really cutting edge, and it's altering many, many lives. People who have suffered with wounds that haven't been able to get any progress with healing are experiencing tremendous results. And I want to stop short of calling it miraculous, but I want to come as close to saying that this is a miracle thing as I possibly can without actually saying it's a miracle thing, because, you know, only God can provide the miracles, right? And I believe this may be a therapy that came from God. All knowledge comes from him. So with that said, I want to introduce Dr. Ruben Rafaelov and Mr. Dean Hymel and ask them to tell us a little bit about Infinity Medical Consulting and where and why it was born.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Ruben.
And this is Dean. How are y'all doing today?
Wonderful, wonderful. We're happy to have you here.
Yeah, well, Dr. Ruben and I, we started the company a few years ago because of a mutual friend of ours that was suffering with a chronic wound, a diabetic foot ulcer. And he was going through all the traditional wound care. We were watching how much he suffered going through it. He went through this for over a year and a half. And through this process of watching him suffer, Dr. Ruben introduced what we do with the amniotic allografts. This is an advanced wound care treatment. And through this, our friend, his name's Gary, his leg was healed instead of it being amputated. It was at the point where all the wound care doctors said, prepare for amputation. There's nothing else you could do. And thank God that Ruben came along. He introduced us to the product. It healed Gary's leg. And from that, Dr. Ruben and I, we started a company together, Infinity Medical Consulting, because there's so many people out there suffering because of this condition. So that's how the company started.
Wow. So I have to ask you to explain one term, because I heard you say amniotic allograft. Now, I don't understand what that means. You kind of went over my head a little bit, but can you talk a little bit about what amniotic allograft is so that our listeners be able to understand it better?
Yes, we'd be glad to. And it's something new that most people haven't heard of, although it actually is something that we're all very familiar with, because amniotic placental allografts are basically biological products that are designed to heal wounds, but they come from the placenta. Obviously, we were all in our mother's belly at one point, and we had this placenta covering us to nourish us and protect us and help us grow. And so after we're born, right, the placenta has served its purpose for our growth. And now moms are donating these placentas, and we'll be able to use them for medical advancements. Specifically, with what we're doing is in healing chronic wounds.
Amazing. So if I'm understanding correctly, something that was a part of birth that was actually probably going out in biohazard waste or being disposed of is actually now being used to bring healing to people who otherwise have had very much difficulty in getting healed or having their wounds healing. Am I understanding that correctly?
You are 100% correct. And it boggled my mind when I first heard of it as well. But in all of us who are in the holistic space, the placenta has been known for many, many years to be very nutrient dense and having a lot of these growth factors that many women actually would opt to, convert them into capsules or dehydrate them and consume them to help improve their healing after, them having a baby. And whereas that's not really common for humans to do, in the wild, animals do this all the time. They consume their placentas. So I'm not recommending that, women go ahead and start eating their placentas, but what I'm saying is it's been known in the holistic space to have a lot of these healing properties. So now it's being utilized in medical science through rigorous testing and processing methods using FDA labs and being certified through Medicare. This is being utilized to actually be as a medicinal preparations in wound coverings. That's making dramatic impact in reducing suffering and in actually saving lives, saving limbs.
Wow, that is amazing. And so let's talk about why is it that some wounds simply don't heal, or they have with regular care, or they're so difficult to heal? Why is that?
That's a great question. That's going to take us probably the full length of the podcast to explain and to go into, right? But I'll give you guys just some broad strokes.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of main categories of influencing why a wound becomes chronic. The main one being infection. If the wound gets infected, that inhibits its ability to heal. If a wound does not have proper circulation, proper blood flow to it, it will impede its healing as well.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, if there's a lot of pressure on the area of the wound, physical pressure, right? Whether it be on the bottom of the foot or let's say on the person's backside and they're bed bound and they're on that area of the wound for a long time, it will also impair its wound healing, right? And nutrition. If a person is malnourished, their likelihood of improving the wound improving also reduces dramatically. And that also covers, with regards to diabetics, high blood sugar and also smoking damages the blood vessels, which also contribute to why wounds become chronic. Now, the challenge even more so is once those different factors are all addressed and improved upon, the next question is, how come the wound just doesn't heal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when a wound becomes in a chronic status, no matter how well these areas are improved upon, the circulation, the diabetic control, the nutrition, reducing pressure on the area, many times the skin may still not close because now it's gone into this phase of skin failure to close. And so where the body just kind of gives up and it peters out the healing process, and now you're stuck with what you got. So many times people have to walk around with these chronic wounds, praying and hoping that it doesn't get infected or create more complications, which unfortunately many times it does, can be very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Or they opt to get it amputated, that area.
Wow.
And so those have been the options, right? Either suffer through it and pray that it heals, or get it amputated and pray that heals. Those have been the options with chronic wounds in the past. as of 3 years ago.
Yes.
And since recently, Medicare has now approved this treatment to be done out of the hospital setting in the community. Now we have alternatives. And the best alternative, when compared to everything else that's out there, are these placental amniotic allografts that, when put on these wound beds by our medical providers, we've seen, again, dramatic healing. And I would love to go into that as well.
Great. So, and let's do that. So why is this considered the leading option when it comes to wound care and wound recovery?
Great question. So these placental skin grafts act as biological barriers, right? Barriers. And so, similar way that it's essential and it covers the baby inside the womb to facilitate its growth and protection, right? And maintaining a very healing and healthy environment to facilitate a baby's growth, right? When these placenta skin grafts are applied on the wounds of chronic wounds, it does the same thing. It offers that protection. It creates a better healing environment, and actually has compounds in there to stimulate skin repair and tissue repair at unparalleled comparisons to anything else. So we've seen wounds 3 to 5 years old close up within a matter of a couple of weeks. And I'm not exaggerating.
Wow. That is incredible. That is amazing.
Dean, can you please share one of the stories of Ms. Gould?
Oh, Miss Gould was a patient. She was 93 years old. She had a ulcer on the bottom of her foot, so she wasn't able to move. She was healthy, it's just that her wound was not healing. And she was battling this for 2 years. They were coming in, the wound care was coming in, just debriding the wound, which means cleaning it up and putting a bandage on it and saying, let's see what happens. So one of our doctors, we were talking to him, and says, hey, we have Ms. Gould. They explained to us what the situation was. They asked if the allografts that we use will help. We said, of course it will. They started using it. 3 weeks later, the wound was completely healed. And Mrs. Gould was like, Dr. Ruben was there and says, what are you going to do now that you can move around? She goes, I'm getting in the kitchen and I'm going to start cooking again. And so she's 96 years old now. She says, I just love cooking. She's got a big family that she cooks for. She got all her grandkids and everyone coming over. And she's the happiest lady in the world now at 96 years old. She got her mobility back after 2 years of just sitting in a chair, not being able to do anything.
Wow. I love hearing the success stories and how people regain their lives due to any treatment, but this is amazing.
Yes.
Bridget actually has a question for you.
Yes, I do. So what are the biggest myth or misconception about wound care that you like to clear up today for us?
Great question. The common misconception, and we actually see this with the nurses that we interact with home health agencies, right, with caregivers, even with some doctors who care for these patients with chronic wounds. They basically tell them, okay, prepare for an amputation, right? And so the common misconception is that a wound becomes chronic and it's not healing after a couple of months, right? Everyone throws their arms in the air and says, okay, prepare for amputation, where now that we have this treatment available, and we're so glad to share this treatment of option with all you guys. So therefore, in case that ever happens in your world where you become plagued with a chronic wound, God forbid, but in case that does happen, you know that even though the experts, the medical experts, those that have years and years and years of experience in caring for people, and they tell you, okay, the only option is an amputation, that's a complete myth. Because as it stands right now, we've been able to help, and our providers that we work with have been able to help tremendous amount of clients, of patients, avoid amputations and get their life back, get their mobility back, and heal even the most complicated, drastic, deep, kind of long-lasting wounds.
Wow.
Okay, thank you for that. And I just have one more question. And I've done home care in the past, a long time ago. What are some of the biggest mistakes family and caregivers unknowingly make while caring for someone and at home with a wound?
That's an amazing question, Bridget. Thank you so much for asking that question, because there's something that caregivers and those that are around people who have chronic wounds or have wounds in general can do better to prevent it from maybe getting too bad, right? And that's especially important for those that are bedbound, right, due to some of their medical conditions, um, which is to make sure you rotate the individual, the patient, at least every 2 hours, reposition them in the bed, even if it's from side to side, or putting pillows underneath one side of the body and then putting pillows underneath the other side of the body every 2 hours at least, right? That'd be really important to avoid any kind of pressure applied to certain areas of the body, like bony areas or the bottom, right? The sacral region or the heels, right? Because those pressure sores can develop very quickly, unfortunately, in a person who is bedbound. So that would be one very important thing, is you can't rotate a person enough. If you feel like they're comfortable or uncomfortable, doesn't matter. Switch positions at least every 2 hours to their
Hmm.
bodies, even if it's slightly. It's so important.
Yes.
And the other thing that I would recommend that anyone and everyone can improve on is this. For those of us who've taken care of little babies, what happens when we leave their diapers on for too long, right? And they sit in their poop for too long. They develop a rash and sometimes sores on their bottoms,
Right.
right? Where people who are older or incontinent and also at this point now can't change themselves, right? Many times they're left to sit in their poop for too long, and that can also develop sores, right? So it's very important that caregivers and those around people that are, again, bedbound, put on an alarm for at least every hour just to check and see if a person is soiled.
Yes.
That would be very, especially around mealtime, hour before, 2 hours after meals, where it's most common, or first thing in the morning, and then definitely before bedtime, to make sure, even sometimes in the middle of the night, right, depending on the situation, so a person's not sitting too long in a soiled diaper.
I agree. Yes, we definitely agree. So many of our listeners are worrying about affordability. So, how does Medicare help make these treatments accessible for the public?
Great question. Um, Traditional Medicare Part B, actually gives the most flexibility of coverage of these placental amniotic allografts, which is great. Um, and so also the VA, Veteran Affairs, through their community care network, also cover the grafts and advanced wound care in such manner. That's also makes it pretty available, which is great. Um, in other situations, in there are other Advantage plans that may cover the grafts, or other Medicaid plans that will cover the grafts, but unfortunately, those are very different from state to state, right? And so majority of states do not cover either on the Advantage side or on the Medicaid side, but some do. And so that's something that we can look at case by case, right? But what's good to know is that traditional Medicare and the Veteran Affairs cover the grafts and make it the most accessible coverage for people.
Oh, great. Now, when should a family stop waiting for healing and seek out advanced wound care?
Great question, Sean. Thank you for asking that, because that's something we also get very commonly asked. Based on the Medicare guidelines, they consider anytime a person gets a wound, they should always consider standard wound care first. And this is something that we also agree with, because most wounds, 90% of wounds, heal up with just standard wound care, which is great, right? What does standard wound care mean? It means changing of bandages, debridement, putting on the various preparations and ointments to help stimulate a healing of the wound and the bleeding, taking out some of the dead tissue, right? Nourishment, all those things. Those are considered standard wound care. This is what you were used to if you're going to an urgent care or wound clinic, or home health is caring for your wound at home. This is what they would do. Now, at what point do you say, okay, this is not working and we need to try something different? When does a person or family or resident really look into this advanced option? Well, Medicare makes it very clear. They will cover this treatment that's medically necessary when a wound is not making much progress after 30 days of documented standard wound care. And what do they consider a treatment failure? If a wound is not improved by at least 40% within a 30-day period, they then qualify for advanced wound care and these placental allografts.
Okay. So it's not anything that's, the standard or the bar is set too high. It's just making sure that we've tried conventional means. And once those conventional means are shown not to have a certain level of success, then we can move on to more advanced type of treatment.
Exactly, Sean. You hit the nail on the head on that one.
Okay, and it makes sense because I'm pretty certain I'm not sure how many placentas there are available to be able to go around for people to be able to access this treatment. I'm assuming that we would need to preserve them for the people who actually need them, and though there may be interest in a lot of people moving right to this because of the rapid progress and the amount of success that is received.
Yes, the success rates are phenomenal, but like you said, because of limited availability of these placenta tissue, as well as there's no desire to ever fully disrupt the standard of care, right? It's okay, advancements are made. Let's make it available initially for those who are most vulnerable and need it the most. And so anytime a resident or family or even a nursing agency comes to us and says, you know what, we have this wound, do they qualify for the allografts, or what should we do first? And we always advise them to work with their providers to make sure that they're doing the standard wound care first, right? And if that's not shown to be effective based on those guidelines, then we would get them in touch with a provider that actually does these advanced treatments of these placenta grafts, and that way we can see them get healed up.
Absolutely. Now, chronic wounds affect more than just the body, right? Can you talk about, in your experience, how they affect the confidence and self-esteem of a person who's actually dealing with the chronic wounds, and what are some of the other sidebar effects of having a chronic wound on an individual?
Great question, Sean. What happens many times is that the like you said, it's not just the physical body that gets affected, right? It creates a lot of pain, depression, isolation, and we see this all the time, loss of mobility, where they can't get around, right? They can't get around their own house, let alone going outside, going to the store, running errands, going to meet up with friends in the restaurants, or even doing any recreational activities. There's no way. Many times people just struggle getting out of bed, and because of the pain and the chronic wound, to just even go to the bathroom. And so many times we see a downward spiral that occurs because of wounds, because of the pain and loss of mobility that it creates. And unfortunately, many times it creates so much depression and loss of hope that it causes the perfect storm for a person to go into decline and ultimately death. because in and of itself, a wound makes a person susceptible to getting an infection that goes to the blood. And so that's called sepsis. And so, a person can decline very quickly, unfortunately. And so it's something that we all need to take seriously. One of the health talks that we do regularly in a lot of retirement communities and assisted livings is how to prevent small wounds from getting bigger, where we teach people how to make sure that they clean their wounds, that they change their bandages daily. They don't just put one Band-Aid on and forget about it until 2 weeks later when someone else notices that they have something dirty on their arm or their leg, that looks like a Band-Aid.
Yes.
No, that can't happen. Like, we have to be really diligent. And so many times taking those, making it a big point to say, you know what, you can't just use a piece of toilet paper to wipe off the wound and continue walking around. No. It won't. You got to take it seriously and be very cautious, because the downward spiral that it can create is so unfortunate that you want to be on top of it right away. Many times the wounds are unavoidable, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not like you're doing anything wrong, right? But anytime you do notice a wound, you got to take it seriously so it doesn't get to the point where, it becomes chronic, because that just creates a whole host of other issues, not to mention loss of work, right? Disability that it creates, and strain on the families, strain on relationships, right? And so again, it's very unfortunate. That's one of the reasons why Dean and I are so passionate, because we saw the suffering firsthand in our friend Gary. We saw the suffering firsthand, and we were so passionate to say, you know what, this is something that so many people are dealing with. We have to make this more available, and we have to be more advocates for this access to this level of care.
Right. Very, very much so. And so we have Arlene here in the studio, and Arlene, you're sort of the boots on the ground for this therapy, right? And getting it out there and getting it to the people, or getting to the doctors and to the places that house people who may need this type of care. What are some of the challenges that you're facing in getting this service known widespread to the people?
Yeah, I think that's really the point, is to get the message out to these places that this is something that is revolutionary. It's incredible. So my challenge, yes, is to go into places and speak to, nursing and other maybe activities directors at assisted living places. And they're busy people, You have to really understand that they are busy. Need to just find the times when they can sit and we can discuss and talk about it, because if they are not already aware of it, they're still using these old methods. So, and as we can see, that it costs a lot more. It costs these Medicare insurances and everything a lot more if we can't actually treat the person and they go through amputations and all of that kind of stuff. So sometimes they're just not aware that something of this magnitude is out there.
Absolutely. I think it all comes down to, having the information. Information is power. And that's part of what we're into. And doing a podcast is disseminating information and making sure information makes it to the right people. I don't doubt that once people are connected with this service, and that they would be more than happy and willing to use it. I just think that a lot of people don't know about it. I honestly didn't know much about it until a few months ago, until we actually discussed it. And I've actually done some research and looking into it. I've actually met someone who's had utilized the service. I'm blown away. I was blown away then, and I'm still blown away at the success of it. I'm also blown away that this exists And however, there's so few people who know about it, that it's not somebody's not standing at a mountaintop and trumpeting this out to the world is amazing to me. But you have a fan, and there's an advocate in us, in me, Bridget, and Aging Whealthily podcast, and A Touch of Love Home Care, and staffing. We all are, going to, always do what we can to connect people who may need the service with the service. Over time and over years, I've met many people as a CNA, working as a CNA, who had serious wounds, very serious wounds, and honestly had given up hope that they would ever be healed. I mean, I've seen people with ulcers that you can actually see the bone. And I wish that I was connected with them today so that I could say, hey, there's something out here that can help you, because they didn't know. And for everybody that's under the sound of our voice now, that here's this podcast, that hears about this treatment, I think it's important that you connect. You can connect with Arlene, you can connect with us. We were gladly connected with Arlene. We're connected with Dr. Ruben. We connected with Dean. But connect, because there's so many people whose lives could be changed. Some people whose lives will be saved just by being able to connect with this treatment. And this is how important this is. I've seen people I had a friend who, he was a diabetic. He's a martial arts teacher. And he got a wound on his foot. And he ended up, first he lost part of his foot. They didn't get all the infection. And then he ended up having to get his leg amputated below the knee. And when I tell you the emotional changes that he went through with dealing with having to lose his limb as a martial arts instructor, this was life altering for him. And had he had access to this, had this been available, and I don't think it was available at the time, but just imagine that his limb could have been saved. And I only mention this circumstance because I know him. But there are others who, given the same type of, who are out there dealing with it right now, who can actually would be saved, or their limbs would be saved, or would be healing. I've met people who've had all types of chronic wounds, just in my line of work, prior and even now, who have they had this information, it could change. It could change their lives. So I want you to, Doc or Arlene, could you give some information on how our listeners can contact you, how anyone who's interested in finding out more about the service can reach out and contact you to learn more?
Well, we do have several ways of doing that. You can contact me personally at my phone, 203-522-9631, or send an email to Arlene at infinitymedicalconsulting.com. And you can go to the website for more information, which is infinitymedicalconsulting.com as well. There's more information and videos on there. And, we're here. Something that I wanted to mention that I feel is very important is that with all types of maybe donated tissue, there is a risk of rejection. And maybe Dr. Ruben can fill in here a little bit about what our rates are for rejection with these allografts.
Thank you so much, Arlene, for bringing that up, because that's also a common misconception. With placenta tissue, it's extremely unique and very different than any other human tissue around, any other organ, because it actually does not have any DNA or blood or cells from either the mom or the baby. It's completely universal and actually is a standalone, separate tissue than the mom or the baby. So the rates of rejection are literally zero,
Wow.
That's amazing.
which is incredible.
That is absolutely incredible. The rates are actually zero. There's no rejection.
No, no, not at all.
Wow.
Oh.
So again, we have to really make sure that we are able to connect people with this information, so that they know that they know that there's hope and there's healing for them. And Doc, what I would like to do, and Arlene, is maybe we can set up something where we can come back and, do some talks around wound therapy, wound healing. Maybe we can have one of your past clients on who can come in and maybe give a testimonial or give some people some insight on what their experience was with the treatment. I think that will definitely help with making people more acquainted with it, more associated with it, and understanding that this isn't just talk, that this is a reality.
Yeah, that sounds great. We'd love to set that up.
All right, let's do that. So in closing, Bridget, do you have any questions that you would like to ask or anything you would like to add?
No, but thank you
Thank
so
you
much for coming.
Yes. Arlene, do you have
Joining
anything you
us.
would like to add or anything you would like to say?
Well, as we've gone over during this time here, this is something that is unprecedented. A treatment that can turn everything around. Someone who may have lost all kinds of hope in their life and their families are struggling, trying to get them back on their feet. And there's something here that is, even Medicare, will cover, VA will cover the cost and bring someone's life back, completely back. So for me, that's why I'm sitting here today, because of this. It's just amazing to be part of something that I can, help in such a huge way. It's just huge.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is amazing. And I feel honored and privileged that I'm able to help, well, actually, to host Dr. Ruben and Dean on this podcast, and that we can actually connect people with this information, because we're here. This is the part of this, is that we want to help, right? And helping is arming people. The best way of helping is arming people, bringing them information, especially information that can help to change their lives, or help to change the trajectory of their lives, or help to bring them healing. I think that's one of the most beautiful things that you can do, is offer a person healing, especially offer a person hope when they believe that there was no hope for them. And here there's this therapy. This is incredible therapy that is now here to bring hope and healing to people who otherwise didn't have it. Dr. Ruben, do you have anything, or Dean, and Dean, I should say, not or, but Dr. Ruben and Dean, do you have anything that you would like to add in closing?
Well, the only thing I'd like to say is that, for anyone that's listening, if they're suffering from a chronic wound, or they have a family member or a loved one or a friend, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have providers around the country that can help take care of these wounds and help them improve their life, so they could get back the mobility they lost, or get back, the relief from the depression or whatever they're going through because of these chronic wounds. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Absolutely. Doc, yes, Doc.
One thing that I would like to mention, and this is a plug to you guys, Sean and Bridget, is, as a middle-aged person, Dean and I are both middle-aged, and being in this industry, working with the elderly, working with chronic wounds, being involved with retirement communities now and home health and all the supporting services and facilities of people that are aging, it makes me feel really good knowing that when I get older, I know how to take care, how to make sure that I'm being taken care of, because there's so many people like yourself, like Bridget, and the work that you guys do to make people, age gracefully and really truly live in their golden years, knowing that there is information, there's resources available, and I'm just so fortunate for people like you guys to be able to offer this to everyone, not just older people, but young people. I really believe that all people, especially young people, should be tuning in and learning about how to age gracefully, because it's something that will affect all of us at some point in our lives. So thank you so much for what you guys are doing.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it's a labor of love for sure. So one thing I'll say in closing, you can look in the notes below and you'll find all of the information and the contact information for Dr. Ruben and Infinity Consultant. You'll find Arlene's information there where you can reach out if you're in need of some help, you were needing more information. The information is readily available for anyone who needs it. If you are a community and you would like to connect with them, you can also connect through that information below, and they will be glad to come out and do a lunch and learn and teach and talk about all the services that they have and they provide, and all the ways that they can help your residents in the community to be able to live happier, healthier, more confident lives.
And Sean, one thing I want to mention as well, in terms of giving resources and access to information, I'm sure everyone listening is wanting to learn how to heal wounds faster. And so we have a 25-page guide that we created for anyone that reaches out to us and who requests this guide. We'd be glad to share with them via email, so therefore they can learn more about standard wound care, about advanced wound care, and so that way they can be just more aware of what are the options available to make sure that they never have to suffer with a wound. So we're very glad to have put together this 25-page guide and also to share it for absolutely free to anyone who reaches out to us. So
Okay.
infinitymedicalconsulting.com.
Great. So, and also we'll keep a link. There'll be a link below. There is a link below. So you'll be able to click right on that link and it'll take you right to their site. We'll have all their information contained right below, make it easy as possible for you. You won't have to search. You can go right down, click a link, make a phone call, click a link, send an email, click a link, and be connected with this Infinity Medical Consulting or Arlene Tessman. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. It was certainly a pleasure for us to have Dr. Ruben and Dr. Ruben and Dean on the show today, along with Arlene, who's becoming a regular on our show. We love Arlene. And we want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in today. This has been another episode of Aging Whealthily podcast. I want to say in closing, if you are in the Middletown area, if you are looking for office space, we are here at the Main Street Marketplace in Middletown. There are lots of office spaces available. This is a great community, a beautiful place to establish and grow your business. The owner is a lovely and great guy. If you're looking for a home and you're looking for a place to launch your business or to grow your business, call Stone Point Property or at the Main Street Marketplace in Middletown, Connecticut. Ask for Mike Stone. He's a great guy and it's a great place to grow your business. Thank you.
Thank you
for tuning in, and we look forward to having you on the next episode of Aging Wealthily podcast. I am Sean Smith, and I'm here with Bridget, and we are signing off. Have a great day. If you're looking for a great place to launch and grow your business, there are great office spaces here in the Main Street Marketplace building. I know the owner. His name is Mike Stone, and you can contact Stone Point Properties here in Middletown. It's a great place to launch and grow your business in a great family atmosphere.